Welcome to the fifth episode of the Cyber Threats Radar podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into understanding and managing cybersecurity risks.
Yeah, especially how they play out with SaaS applications. They're everywhere now.
They really are. It's, almost impossible to run a business without them. But that brings a whole load of new security things to think about, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And the threat landscape, well, it's not standing still. We keep seeing more sophisticated attacks.
Like that Medusa ransomware incident.
Exactly. The attack on the Minneapolis Public School District was, a stark reminder.
Losing over 100 gigabytes of sensitive data.
Yeah, and the operational chaos, the financial hit, the damage to their reputation, it really shows you what's on the line.
It does. So our mission today is really to give everyone a practical grip on how to, proactively beef up their security.
Especially against things like ransomware, malware, data breaches, phishing, insider threats, the whole lot.
All within those SaaS environments. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What exactly is cybersecurity risk in this context?
Well, fundamentally, cybersecurity risk is about the effect of uncertainty on your information and tech.
Uncertainty, meaning?
Meaning the potential for things to go wrong,
Yeah.
leading to, say, loss of confidentiality data getting out, or integrity data being changed, or even availability systems going down.
Okay, and this risk, it's not just hackers, right?
No, absolutely not. That's a common misconception. Risk can come from outside cyber criminals, sure, hacktivists, even third-party vendors or nation-states.
But also from inside.
Definitely. Things like privilege, misuse, someone having access they shouldn't and making a mistake, or worse, deliberate employee sabotage.
Poor security awareness too, I imagine. People clicking on things they shouldn't.
Yes, and that whole area of shadow IT employees using apps the IT team doesn't even know about. That creates risk.
Right. So when we're trying to measure this risk, what are the key components?
There are really two main factors we look at. First, what's the likelihood? How probable is it that a specific threat actually happens?
Okay, likelihood. And second?
Second is the potential severity of the impact if it does happen.
Impact meaning financial losses?
Financial, yes, but also reputational damage, operational disruption, maybe legal trouble, compliance fines. It can be broad.
So likelihood and severity. How do organizations actually use those two things to make decisions?
A really useful tool here is something called a cybersecurity risk assessment matrix.
A matrix. Sounds technical.
It's actually quite visual. Think of it as a way to plot out your risks. It helps you quantify them and see them clearly.
Okay, like a map.
Sort of, yeah. Almost like a heat map for your security worries.
Okay, let's dive into this matrix then. What's it look like? How does it work?
So picture a grid, simple grid. Along one axis, you've got the likelihood of a risk happening. Maybe that goes from, say, very unlikely up to very likely. And on the other axis, you have the potential severity, the impact. That could range from negligible all the way to critical or catastrophic.
Right, so you plot each risk onto this grid.
Exactly. Based on how likely you think it is and how bad it would be, you place it on the matrix. This lets you categorize the risks visually.
Into categories like low, medium, high.
Precisely. Or maybe severe, high, moderate, low.
Right.
Depends on the matrix. This categorization is absolutely key for prioritizing.
Prioritizing what you need to fix first.
Yes. You immediately see where your biggest problems lie, where you need to focus your resources and your efforts.
I see. Are these matrices standard?
There are common formats. You might see a simple 3x3 matrix, low, medium, high, for both likelihood and impact.
Okay.
Or, for a bit more detail, a 5x5 matrix gives you more granularity, finer distinctions.
Makes sense. More shades of gray, or rather red and green.
Often, yes. They frequently use color coding.
Yeah.
Green for low risk, yellow or amber maybe for medium, and red for the really high critical stuff. It makes it very intuitive.
And can companies tweak these?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
one of the strengths. You can customize the labels, the categories, the colors, even the definitions of high impact to fit your specific organization, your industry, your risk appetite.
Good. So it's adaptable.
Oh.
Okay. What are the actual steps then? How do you go about creating one for your own organization?
Right. Step one, and this is foundational, is you need to audit your environment thoroughly.
Audit meaning find everything.
Pretty much. Create a comprehensive inventory of all your IT assets. That means endpoints, laptops, phones, hardware servers, network gear, software, cloud workloads, and critically, your data. Where is it? What is it?
And you need to know what's most important, Riff.
Yes, identifying your business-critical assets is vital within that inventory. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Yeah. You need to know what matters most.
Okay, step 1, know your stuff. What's step 2?
Step 2 is about identifying the relevant cyber threats and vulnerabilities that could actually affect those assets you just inventoried.
So looking for the weaknesses.
Exactly. Assessing your environment for vulnerabilities. This could be IT misconfigurations, maybe users or apps having way too many permissions, excessive privileges. Unpatched applications are a big one. Weak access controls.
And the threats themselves.
Simultaneously, you list the kinds of cyber threats that are relevant to you. Malware, phishing attacks, DDoS, SQL injections, maybe insider attacks, disgruntled employees, or just careless ones.
Okay, so inventory done, list of threats and vulnerabilities done. Step 3 must be putting those together.
You got it. Step 3 is assessing the threats based on their likelihood and potential impact.
Yeah.
You use your asset inventory, your list of threats and vulnerabilities, and you determine the risk level for each key asset.
Oh.
Ask, what's the chance this threat exploits this vulnerability on this asset? And if it does, how bad could it be?
And that's where the more detailed 5x5 matrix might be helpful.
Precisely. It allows for that deeper, more nuanced assessment, giving you better insights than a simple low, medium, high might.
Got it. Assess the what if and how bad. Then, step 4, categorize risks. How does the matrix fit in here again?
Well, once you've done that assessment, figured out the likelihood and impact for each risk, you use the matrix you designed to categorize them visually.
Putting the dots on the grid?
Essentially, yes. This step is what translates your assessment into a prioritized list. It clearly shows you these are critical, these are high, these medium, these lows.
So drive the action plan.
It helps you prioritize where to put your limited resources, time, money, people. You tackle the red zone first.
Makes sense. Which leads us to step 5, figuring out what to do.
Exactly. Step 5 is developing targeted risk management strategies. Now that you know the risks and their levels, you decide how to respond.
And there are different ways to respond?
Oh yes. For some very low severity, low likelihood risks, you might just decide to accept them. The cost to fix might outweigh the potential harm.
Okay. Accept some. What else?
For some moderate risk, maybe you can transfer the risk. Cybersecurity insurance is a form of risk transfer.
Right. Insurance.
But for those high severity, high probability risks, the ones in the red zone, the main strategy is usually risk reduction. You implement security measures to bring that risk down.
And what kind of measures are we talking about, especially thinking about SaaS?
Well, there's a range. Implementing a zero-trust architecture is a big one. The principle of least privilege, giving users and apps only the absolute minimum access they need.
That seems critical for SaaS apps connecting to each other.
It is. Also, carefully managing security settings within the SaaS apps themselves, and importantly, any browser extensions employees might be using.
Browser extensions, they can be risky.
They certainly can. Other measures include things like user behavior analytics to spot weird activity, enforcing strong security policies, making sure you're compliant with regulations like HIPAA if you're in healthcare.
Right, compliance is key.
Definitely. Multi-factor authentication, MFA wherever possible, network segmentation, keeping everything patched, strong password policies, and crucially, cyber awareness training for your people.
That's a pretty solid list. Okay, is that it? Step 6.
Step 6 is remembering. This isn't a one-and-done thing. Risk assessment is an ongoing process.
Not just an annual checkbox exercise.
Absolutely not. The threat landscape changes constantly. New vulnerabilities pop up, new attack techniques. Regulations evolve too.
So you need to keep monitoring.
You have to. Monitor for emerging risks, stay on top of compliance. Changes fines for non-compliance can be huge, not to mention the reputation hit.
Like with HIPAA again.
For example, yes.
Yeah.
So you need to regularly revisit and refine your risk assessment matrix. Does it still accurately reflect your posture?
And how do you keep up? Seems like a lot of work.
This is where automated tools can really help. Tools for continuous monitoring, for compliance auditing. They can make this ongoing process much more manageable.
Okay, this framework sounds robust, but I'm thinking about the speed of saws and extensions. An employee needs a new ChatGPT extension today, or some new code review app, or a calculation tool for a project right now. Doing that deep manual risk assessment we just talked about for every single request, that sounds incredibly slow. Like it would just kill productivity.
You've hit on a major challenge, a real pain point for security teams. Those big formal risk assessments might happen once a year, maybe twice.
Right.
But SaaS adoption happens daily, hourly sometimes.
Yeah.
Manually vetting every single new app, every browser extension, it's often just not feasible. It slows things down, and users might just find ways around it anyway.
Which brings back shadow IT.
Exactly. It's a constant battle keeping up.
So are there better ways to handle this more frequent kind of on-the-fly assessment needed for sauce and extensions?
Yes, thankfully there are.
Yeah.
Technology has evolved to address this. There are solutions designed specifically for this dynamic environment. Spin.AI risk assessment is an example of this type of approach.
Spin.AI, okay. What does it do?
Well, tools like Spin.AI automate the analysis. They look at the cybersecurity risks, the compliance risks, even potential business risks associated with all those sauce apps and browser extensions connected to your company's environment.
Automates it. How?
It uses things like AI to automatically discover and assess these applications and extensions.
Hmm.
A key thing is that it's continuous,
Continuous meaning.
meaning it doesn't just assess an app once. If a new version comes out or if an app changes the permissions it's asking for, the tool reassesses and updates the risk score. So you always have a current view.
That sounds way more practical for the pace we're talking about. How does Spin.AI actually, figure out the risk?
It looks at various factors. It identifies OAuth applications.
Hmm?
Those are apps that users authorize to access their data in other apps, like connecting a third-party tool to their Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 account.
Right. OAuth is everywhere.
It is. Spin.AI also discovers browser extensions, which can often access a lot of sensitive data as you browse. It analyzes the permissions these apps and extensions request, what data can they see, what can they change. It looks at the vendor's security posture, known vulnerabilities.
And then it gives it a score.
Yes, it assigns a risk score. Often, like the Matrix, it uses color coding green, yellow, red to make it easy to understand at a glance. Low risk, medium, high, critical.
And what can security teams do with that score?
That's the crucial part. Based on these scores, security teams can set automated policies. For instance, they might say, automatically allow any app with a green score,
Okay.
maybe require approval for yellow scores, and automatically block or revoke access for anything red, anything above our defined risk threshold.
So it automates the enforcement too.
It can, yes. It provides that essential layer of ongoing security between those big periodic assessments. It helps get a handle on shadow IT and increasingly shadow AI tools too.
Right. The AI tools are popping up everywhere now.
They are, so this provides continuous visibility and control. It automates compliance checks for these apps and extensions. And honestly, it saves security and IT teams a huge amount of time. Evaluating every single request manually is just draining.
I can imagine. Does it provide more detail if you need it?
Oh, definitely. Solutions like Spin.AI usually offer much more in-depth risk assessment reports if you need to dig deeper. They provide enhanced controls, customizable alerts, so you get both the quick assessment and the detailed insights for a more effective response.
Wow. Okay. This has been incredibly insightful. We've really covered a lot of ground on understanding and managing these cybersecurity risks, especially in the sauce world.
Yeah, it's a critical area.
So just to recap quickly, we talked about what cybersecurity risk actually means, how that risk assessment matrix is a really valuable tool for visualizing and prioritizing.
Yep, the likelihood versus impact grid.
Exactly. Then the key steps to build and use that matrix: auditing, identifying threats, assessing, categorizing, deciding how to manage the risk, and crucially, monitoring continuously.
That ongoing part is key.
And finally, how automated tools like Spin.AI can really help tackle the specific, fast-paced challenges of assessing risks from all those sauce apps and browser extensions.
That's a good summary. In today's world, being proactive and continuous about risk management, especially for SaaS, it's just not optional anymore. It's absolutely essential to protect your organization.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for our listeners. Think about all the SaaS applications, all the browser extensions being used right now in your organization. How well are you really assessing and managing their risks on an ongoing basis? What steps could you take, maybe starting tomorrow, to get better visibility and control there?
That's the question to ask, a really critical one for everyone listening.
Thank you for listening. Stay safe.